Some of you guys asked for some more acoustic videos on the AX8, so I've got my Headway acoustic guitar here that I've been doing all my gigs with recently. It has, hopefully you can see that there, you can do it, Fishman ink system. I basically set it flat, and I do the rest of the stuff from the AX8, so let's look down there and I will talk you guys through my patch and how I use the looper. As always, hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell, and you'll get notifications for all my new videos. I hope you guys find this one useful, and I hope it sounds all right too. Okay, so here's the patch. Here's my all-important foot in a sock for stepping on things. You'll notice that I've got these button toppers, which are made by the Home Musician. I'll put up links in the video description to those. They're really great 3D printed buttons, and they're super cheap as well, so they're worth checking out. But essentially, this acoustic patch, I'm using the Tube Pre, and the reason I'm doing that is so that the amp controls for bass, middle, and treble are easily accessible if I want to make any EQ changes on the fly during a gig or we don't have much setup time. So that's really handy. After that, I have a parametric EQ block. That's just cutting some harsh frequencies, so really high Q, between like 3 and 6 dB of cut at a couple of frequencies from memory, like 800 Hertz-ish, and then 4K and 8K-ish. These just correspond to those harsh frequencies on my guitar. And then after all of that, I have the studio compressor, and then I go into the looper. So it's really important to think about where you want the looper. If you want to play a loop and then process it with different sounds, you would obviously want the looper first in the chain. But in this case, I want all my process sounds to be looped. So I've put the looper last in the signal chain, and I will put up that signal chain in AX8 Edit up on the screen for you guys. So essentially here is a straight up sound of the acoustic guitar. I've got 3 scenes basically that I use. I use scene 3 really rarely because it's a lead scene, and I don't play a lot of lead when I'm playing acoustic gigs. But here's the dry guitar sound. And that might sound great. It might sound like absolute arse coming out of your speakers. I have not tweaked this since the last gig I do, and I always use the bass, middle, and treble to basically fine-tune the sound for the PA and for the room, and it's always different every night. So I have no idea how that's sounding. I apologize if it sounds like crap. So that's the straight-up sound. Then on scene 2, I've got an octaver, just a straight octave down. For some bass stuff if I need it when I'm looping, and then scene 3 just adds a filter block for a bit of a volume boost and some delay. So that's pretty sweet. They're the sounds, more or less. I don't want to basically play around with too many different sounds a lot of the time because I'm just kind of accompanying a singer in this case. It's not the main show. What I have done is set up the F2 button so that I can hit it and go straight to the looper menu, and that's like a global feature. So any preset that has a looper in it, I just have to press F2 and I am there. So you may want to consider doing that if you do a lot of looping. The way I use the looper as well is I'll normally build a guitar loop first. So I'll give you guys a really quick example of this. I'll go guitar, then I'll add some bass, and I'll add some rhythmic stuff. And I always try to play what I'm going to loop first before I start looping, just to sort of get into the groove. There you go, that gives you an example, and you saw there that I tried to sort of overdub a funky little thing like this. And then as I heard it back, it wasn't quite in time and it didn't quite fit, so I used the undo feature to delete that particular loop. And the undo feature will essentially just undo the last thing that you overdub, which is pretty cool. And I use that feature a lot during gigs because I often stuff up looping. It's just kind of the nature of the thing. I'll be playing around and, you know, I'll either get the first bass overdub a little bit out of time, or I'll sort of do, you know, where I'm hitting the guitar trying to do a rhythmic thing, it'll just be slightly out and it'll be really annoying, so I'll be able to undo it. So that's super cool. I mean, that's basically the idea. Then you could see there I was going back and forth and switching scenes. So I've got a bit of redundancy built in here where, say I switch to scene 2 and I want to play some bass, I can either hit the looper directly with this button or with F2. So, and I use both. It sort of just depends on which one I see first. If I go to scene 3 and play a solo over all of that, it sounds like so. There we go. So I know you can't see the guitar at the moment, so you're just seeing my feet tap dance around, which is probably a little bit boring, but that's the idea. That's how I would build up a particular loop. And this works really, really well in sections where, you know, like that particular song there, it's 2 chords for the whole thing and a bit of bass, and you let the singer do their thing. Another thing that you can do is, say you're playing a song that has a particular lead line in it that you want to repeat. I'll give you an example. This is some Aussie rock stuff, some Hunters and Collectors. Basically, there's a little piano thing at the start of the song that's repeated every now and then, this lick. So what I'm going to do is I'll basically sample that, and I can use the play once feature while I'm playing. I just need to make sure I play this in time. So to be like... Okay, so I've got the little sample there, and I would play along and go, like, let me see if I can actually do this. That's the idea anyway. You could hear there that when I started it out, I was not in time with the little sample that I made. So that's always a challenge there. I find with stuff like that, the shorter the better. You know, for example, you might take a little sample, something like this even, and kind of make something rhythmic out of it. So you might take a little chord stab like, and do a really quick record, press, and release. So you go... So that's one example. That's pretty fun to improvise with. Another is to basically just play a chord and then sit like, essentially it's like a sample and hold feature. So you might play a chord, let it ring out, and quickly press record and release it. that kind of stuff. So you can do creative stuff with the looper as well. Recording stuff looped backwards is really fun as well. You know, let's take that old tried and true classic Wonderwall, but I'll try to play it more in the style of someone like Ryan Adams, who does an incredible version of that song if you haven't heard it yet, which you really, really should. But essentially what I'll do is I'll loop the chords, and then I'm going to play them backwards, but while I'm playing them backwards, I'm going to play a couple of single note things, and then we will basically go back and forth and reverse them and have some nice swells in there. So how the hell does he play it? In addition to being a great performance tool, the looper is also a super inspiring tool for improvisation. And, you know, that's how I would take a kind of vanilla song that everybody does and turn it on its head using an acoustic guitar and using the AX8 looper. And to be honest, nowadays I do as many gigs with this thing on acoustic guitar as I do for electric gigs, and it has not let me down. It's so easy, so plug and play, having everything under your, I would say fingertips, but it's more like under your big toe in a sock, is super handy. And yeah, there you go. I can't remember if I mentioned at the beginning, but I'm playing this guitar. This is my Headway, which sounds pretty darn good. So, or it might sound like absolute crap, like I said before, depending on how I've got this EQ set. It's not super loud in here, so if you're listening on big old monitors with some compression, maybe it sounds like balls. Let me know in the comments anyway. If you've got any tips or tricks that you would like to share when it comes to DI acoustic guitar tones, I'm talking about, you know, plug-in guitars with a built-in pickup like I have here, please feel free to share them. I'm always looking to improve my acoustic tones and share them with everybody. Thank you guys so much for watching this video on the AX8 looper and how I set up my acoustic patch. I will see you all around real soon.